I will just ask Myrtle. Myrtle, you've been organizing workers for many, many years, very much involved in the fight for workers' rights. My question to you is, what is the role of trade unions in general? And we've spoken a lot about, organizing and the role of trade unions. What is the role of trade unions in particular in realizing the decent work agenda? Myrtle, are you with us?
Hello. Yes, I'm connecting myself. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you now. Great.
Hello. It's Myrtle. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. I was sitting here listening to so many speakers, researchers, academics, and I was getting lost among all of this because I was actually asking myself the question, am I really on the right platform? Am I really part of this platform? Because as I'm sitting here, we need to face a reality of a crisis, a world crisis that's affecting the migrant workers so much. We need to face the reality that millions of the migrant workers are losing their jobs. We have to face the reality that there's Convention 189, that Convention 190, there's all these great papers of the ILO, there's all these great papers that's there. But we need to ask ourselves, why do we really migrate? We migrate because we want to go work in another country. We want to go work for our families. And that is why we really migrate. But does it mean if we migrate, does it mean that we have to go into slavery? Does it mean that we must be denied our passport? Does it mean that we must be locked up? Does it mean that we must be ill-treated, abused? So the question here that we should ask to this panel, that my question on behalf of the IDWF, my question to the experts, my question to all of you that have this brilliant papers. Yes, I've learned a lot. I'm even educating myself of many of these brilliant papers. The question is, how are we going to go forward out of all of this? These papers that we're representing, we have representing papers from year after year. We have two researchers, yes. Very wonderful. Now the question is, we need to start making some of these papers a reality. We need to keep our governments. We need to keep our governments responsible. We need to ask our government, when I migrate from my one country to the other country, do you keep track of us? Do you have actually, do you know where I'm going when I land in Lebanon? We find that governments is actually curbing us. We cannot form any organizations. Why cannot we? Why are we allowed? We find now with the crisis, thousands of workers in Lebanon were sitting in front of the embassy. They were thrown out. What protection is there for these workers? So the fair question of the IDWF. The IDWF was not formed because we want to have a global organization. We wanted to have a voice for those that can't speak out for themselves. The question here today is also, where is the voice of the migrant workers? Because it's only the migrant workers that know their suffering. It's only the migrant workers that understand what is happening to ourselves. Even now, sending us back home, we're going back to poverty. We're going back to facing the same problem. Yes, we are going to come back. I think that there should be a better control from the agencies. There should be a good control for the agency. There should be education set up globally. There should be education to educate me from my country to another country. On the other side, the agencies should educate me. Sometimes we have no education. Sometimes we have no experience and we go and work and we get thrown from one employer to another employer. So I think that basically the way forward for the IDWF, the way forward for many of those people, for many of those experts is to please come and assist the IDWF. Come and assist us to actually mobilize, educate, and teach domestic workers their rights. 189. How many countries have ratified 189? So how is 189 going to help us as migrant workers? How is 190 going to help us if it's not ratified? If we don't understand it, it's nice to have something on paper, Ola, but if I don't understand it, how is it going to educate me? So clearly the way forward after this panel is, how do we make those researchers available to us? How can we make it a reality? And how can we ensure that domestic workers, migrant workers are going to live in this, how do we call it, the now new world? We have to live with that. There were always going to be migrant workers. There's always going to be domestic workers. But we need to, when we want Convention 189, we say we got our dignity, we've got our respect. Just this morning, we found out the 14-year-old was beaten, she was burned because of violence in the world of work. So for us, IDWF, we thank you that you were thinking of us. We thank you that you were inviting us to this platform. But globally, we need to educate domestic workers. Globally, we need to make sure that as a migrant worker, I understand my right. Globally, we have to stop slavery, abuse of migrant workers. We need to empower migrant workers. We need to empower women to know they are strong and no is no. And also we need to ensure that we can have organizations within this country. They say they're making away with the Kabbalah system. It will be another 3 years maybe when they're making. In the meantime, many workers will still come into this country. So let us go forward. Let us ensure that education will be done. Let us be sure that globally we will put all that research papers in reality so that domestic workers, migrant workers, rural workers can free themselves and support the IDWF as we strive for freedom for all workers in the world. I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Myrtle, and for highlighting the urgency of the situation. I think this is a very strong call to maybe also think of new ways of doing things instead of continuing with the old ways. Thank you very much for that.